I was like, it's like the meme of the guy with two buttons. For a second, I was like, stream or record? Stream or record? Hello, everybody. It is Anna Shell again with more, I don't know, trans stuff, I guess. I would rather be talking about the confirmation hearing the other day for Dr. Levine for her position in Health and Human Services, and the atrocious way she was treated by fake Dr. Rand Paul, and he, just all the nonsense that he piled upon her. Let me. If you haven't heard of this, he went on this huge diatribe about how, she, about if she approved of certain treatments for young people that wanted to, were seeking to transition. And then he continued by, equating it to genital mutilation and other things. And, we've gone through this on the last video on the Equality Rights Act. But I just want to say first, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this, the real thrust of this video, which is far less controversial, I hope. Before we do this, I just want to say that, if you watched that and you're like, well, why didn't she answer? Clearly she's hiding something. No, it's because he poured such a deluge of nonsense and bullshit on her that it would take her hours to unravel the amount of utter crap that he was saying and do it justice. Like to give a good explanation and debunk all of the misleading and sometimes just outright false information that he was given. She would have to take hours. It would take hours, and they only have a certain amount of time to answer. So her answer of, we can have that conversation, in a more appropriate setting at a later date, and appropriate, by appropriate I mean, when you got a few hours, sure. To me that, is it the best? No, but given the circumstances, I don't blame her. And if you think that that's some kind of indictment of her position or her qualifications, then maybe you should examine what he said and do your own research, but hopefully with like good sources and not like right wing think tank or sensationalized media or anything like that. Maybe do some like real research into some like real studies that have been done by independent sources. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. It pissed me off, and I felt like it needed to be addressed momentarily. There's not much more to it than that, so I will move on. The real thrust of this video is about cookies and plastic potatoes. Doing the real hard-hitting journalism here, folks. Recently, there's been a big, to-do about a couple of companies that have basically made statements or, adjusted their product to appear more trans-friendly. And to break it down, first, Oreo, the company of or the cookie, yes, the black and white cookies with the cream in the middle. They their social media department, or whoever runs their Twitter, decided to put out a statement that says trans people exist. That's it. That's all it says. There's nothing else to it. Is that very basic statement, and it is a statement. But people were making it out to be, so you've got a wide range of reactions here, right? So let's start with the one I'm going to hit up the most is the one that says, "This is a political statement. Just make cookies. Stay out of politics. This is up for debate." Like, no, it isn't. It's literally the most factual statement that they could make about us, that we exist, and it's true. We do. You can say what you will about any other facet of our existence, but the fact is that we exist, and to say that we don't is just lunacy and like denying reality and like mental gymnastics that I can't even fathom. Like, it makes me mad to try to be like, no, that's just a complete denial of reality. Here I stand. Here I sit, in defiance of your gender norms as a existing trans person who has met many other trans people who also like actually exist. This is not some kind of oh, what was that movie? What was that movie? Damn, I gotta look it up. Movie with Johnny Depp doing drugs. This is not a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas kind of situation here, folks. You're not hallucinating. We exist, okay? Um, there's nothing else to say about that. So that's like the most ridiculous, extreme um, version of this whole thing. And or that's the most extreme response to this whole thing, right? Like, somehow now our very existence has become a political thing. Uh, or maybe not. I guess it's been that way, but like I think most people are of the mind, of the actual, thinking, reasoning, reality prone mind that we do exist because, the aforementioned sitting. So there's some other opinions on it that are less crazy. Um, one of which is that it is, clearly just pandering to a demographic that they want to get to buy more cookies. And, like, on a purely capitalistic standpoint, that makes sense, right? Because aside from a few fringe elements that we mentioned a moment ago, most people would agree that that is true. However, I think a lot of people would also see it as some kind of, support for us, and maybe the more woke members of society would reward them by buying more heavily processed cookies. Um, and a lot of people blame them for that, or they hold that against the company, right? Nabisco is a company that is known for some pretty shady, and by shady I mean like pretty morally reprehensible business practices, and I think that a lot of people are of the mind that like it's not their disingenuous statement is not in the statement itself, it is the intent behind it, in that they don't really care about trans people, they're just trying to sell more cookies. And, as someone who doesn't love, capitalism, maybe as much as a lot of people do, um, I feel like that is a probably true statement. The cynic in me says yes, definitely that is a true statement, and part of me wants to condemn them for it. Although the part of me that exists in capitalism, which is the rest of me or all of me, I guess, says that there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, right? They do what they got to do to keep it going, to keep those cookies selling. So, you know, uh, and can I blame them for that? I guess yes. Being used as a prop for, being used as a prop for political reasons sucks. I've felt that way a lot. There's a lot of people in our government, on both sides, who use us in different ways as props to push their agenda, or to not even push an agenda, just to keep power. We got this whole culture war thing happening, or at least our politicians would tell us it's a culture war. That you have one side that says, vitriolically that we do not exist, or that we should have less rights, or that we are a danger to society, or this and that, which, like, I wish I was that powerful, man. Um, so you have another side that wants to, you know, promote our equal rights, and, says things that are pro trans. Um, but, one could argue that since they seem to be like pretty not willing to do a lot of other things that would help us out a lot, such as universal health care. One of the problems that many trans people have is being able to afford our medical treatments. Um, and they're let me make this perfectly clear. These are life-saving medical treatments, right? As I discussed in my last video, dysphoria will kill you. It can and has and will. And to ignore it and not treat it is, you know, can be deadly. So to say that, transition treatments and things like that are anything but like life-saving medication, I think you'd be a little disingenuous to say that. Um, but a lot of Democrats are not really into the whole universal health care thing. A lot of them are not, and I mean strictly politicians. I have no stats about voting blocks or demographics that vote that aren't in power. I'm talking strictly about the politicians. So you have a few. Bernie Sanders has been a long-time proponent for our rights. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been a long-time proponent of our rights. There's another woman, I can't remember her name either. She's got a trans daughter, that the one that set the flag out in front of her spot, in front of Marjorie Taylor Greene's, who, by the way, is also a huge piece of garbage. Just my opinion on that one. She's a piece of trash. I'm almost about to run for office myself if that garbage bag can get elected. We've been used as a political prop by politicians for years now. Like, this is a big thing that's happened, and I'm of two minds on it. Right, part of me is offended, and I don't mean like snowflake offended, but like, you're using our struggle to perpetuate your own power, in a sense. At least if your intentions are not good. Like the people I mentioned before, I don't doubt their intentions. I believe their intentions are pure, in that they want to see us actually have equal rights, and they actually care about our well-being. Their stances on other issues and their history in, government and helping people and stuff like that, it supports that, right? But you have people who, and even Biden has a history with trans people. Sarah McBride, the senator that I spoke about before, who just was elected. She's openly trans. She knew about Biden growing up. Like, she's part of not part of the family, but apparently their family were very close. I read her book. And he did take an active interest in her fight for trans equality, and she's been fighting for trans equality. So there's a lot of politicians who definitely do have our best interests at heart, and I don't doubt that. However, there are plenty who are just kind of jumping on the bandwagon just to try to make everybody happy. And while that's a little offensive, the results I can't argue with, right? Like, if that leads to more acceptance and better laws that provide equal rights to us, then in my mind, at least, and like I said, a lot of people are of different minds on this. This is by no means a trans opinion. This is a Anna opinion. But a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people would find that to be offensive, and I totally get that. But for me personally, on that side, I can't argue, because to me, the ends justify the means. That's it. However, on the other side, if you're demonizing us for your own political gain, then you can go to hell. You can go to hell. Like, yeah, that's pretty despicable. It's about as bad as you can get. And I say about as bad as you can get because I'm not sure if the other thing is worse. So the other half now is now that in the last few years there have been a lot of companies, and I'd say most companies, will offer token gestures of equality to marginalized groups. We saw it last year with a lot of private companies and big corporations supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. And you see it every year during Pride Month when all the companies turn their logos rainbow. And it happens every year now. And again, most people in the community are of two different minds about it. I am as well. It's kind of the same thing, right? Except instead of using it to maintain political power, they're using it for profit. And here's the thing, right? I've worked in marketing. I have been, you know, in marketing and tried to sneak in a few, you know, pro trans bits here and there where I can. I was strongly recommended against it after it was, seen. And not in like a horribly mean way, but like they definitely referred to, transgender people as a sensitive subject, which I took a little offense to, not a ton, but I was not super stoked to hear that. And I don't know if who runs Oreo's Twitter. I have no idea. It could be a trans person who was like, look, I really went to their boss. They were like, look, I really believe in this. This is a very inoffensive thing to say, and I think it will get people on our side. And whatever. Maybe they tweaked it together to be more less offensive. I don't know. I don't know if that's not the case, but my gut, my cynical, uh, misanthropic gut says that it was pretty much done to sell more cookies to, you know, progressives and trans people. So, do the ends justify the means on that front? I don't know. Because in politicians, you expect it, right? They're fighting for marginalized people all the time. That's part of their job, or it should be. Um, with companies, it provides them profit, theoretically. I mean, they get canceled once in a while by conservatives, and this is kind of the way it's going. Like, except for Goya, I can't remember any really really big company that like has gone out of their way to espouse conservative ideals. Um, Not off the top of my head. If you know any, leave them in the comments. Sounds, let me know, and then we'll make a video on them too. We won't, but it's fine. Does it have the same effect of bringing more awareness to the issue, bringing more people to the side of normal? Does it normalize us any? Does it, is do the ends justify the means when corporations do it versus um, political actors or entities or whatever. Um, and it's been a thing for a while. It's called rainbow capitalism, right? They have done it with the entire LGBT community for years. So, and it's the idea that they're using it, our struggle and our issues and our identities and everything like that for their own gain. And I think it's more insulting, to be honest. And not only that, but it seems to cause a lot more backlash. And I'm not saying more backlash than it helps. I don't know that. I haven't done a whole lot of studies specifically on, and I don't think a lot of studies have been done on whether it helps people to um, find these marginalized communities more acceptable. I'm sure studies have been done on whether it will convince people to buy cookies or not, but that's not really the point we're trying to make here. So I don't know if because there is a lot of backlash from it. People will say, Oh, I've been told that like we asked for this. I don't know a trans person nor myself that has asked for Oreo to come out on our behalf. In fact, trolling some of the trans subreddits and communities, and I don't troll them, I'm actively involved in them, but like just scanning through some of the responses, a lot of them are actively hostile towards the company for it. They know about the alleged bad business practices. They condemn this whole thing. um, some as part of a condemnation of capitalism in general, some of them specifically because it is pandering. And while I live, in a capitalist society and am trying to work within it in order to enact, better lives for everybody else, while I still have to, I I agree. I find myself agreeing with them on that point. I don't know, but I'm not sure because now it's, and even as I'm talking about it, I'm kind of going back and forth. There is some normalization of us that happens through product advertisement and media and things like that. When they add trans characters to shows, that's more representation. And you could argue that they're doing the same thing. They're just doing it for 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 clicks or for views or whatever. But on in the same breath, it still does normalize us more to people who may not know anything about us, and especially if storylines are done well or things like that. And I don't think that anybody would argue that if they are done well, that it is, a detriment to us. Because, I mean, how many, you know, what would a trans show, we could have a trans show that did for us what, uh, not right, gay show from the 90s. Thank you. We could have a trans show that did for us, that does for us what Will and Grace did for, gay people back in the 90s, or what Ellen did for lesbians back in the 90s. You know, if people watch that kind of stuff, cis people watch that kind of stuff, and when you couch it in entertainment or when you couch it in drama or something like that, it's a bit easier to digest than when it's just me sitting here in a chair, yelling opinions at you, or into the void, as the case may be. But it's hard to say, and if you take the idea that, say an ad that features, we had the Campbell suit ad not too long ago that people got all riled up about because it featured, a gay set of parents, and you know, was the backlash, or was the normalization of it worth the backlash that it got? I don't know, but is it worth it to our community? I also don't know. I'm more landing on the side of yes, it is worth it, in that have we got to do it somehow. I don't know if people are watching these videos here. A lot of people watch, leftists, breadtube, trans creators like ContraPoints and now Philosophy Tube. She just came out as trans too. Um, but shows that are popular, or at least put into mainstream, media, are more readily digested by people who aren't part of the community. So to have commercials and, what anyone, any reasonable person could consider as pandering, towards us, I have to say, given the environment and the society and the whole economic system and social system that we live in, I gotta say that I kind of land on the side of, I don't love it, but I'll take it given the circumstances. Um, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend almost at this point, kind of. Yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. And again, where I stand is not, the stance of the trans community. It is as varied as all of the things that I've mentioned here. So the other thing I was going to talk about, or the other thing I'm getting into, is the decision by I believe it's Hasbro who owns the Potato Head, and now it's Hasbro owns the Potato Head brand, right? And it used to be the Mr. Potato Head brand, and now it has been changed to the Potato Head brand. And as far as I understand, they haven't changed really any of the individual products that exist within that brand. It is still Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head, unless they changed it to Ms. Potato Head, which would probably be more, forgive me, politically correct. But that's that's a whole other discussion for another time. They literally just changed the name of the brand, okay? And there's people who think it's some kind of big conspiracy to indoctrinate children into being trans, and it's just ridiculous. Come on, they're just trying to sell more plastic potatoes, right? Like, they just want to sell more weird toys from the 70s that, like, are people buying these still? Like, they seem very, and I don't mean this as a I'm not dragging Mr. Potato Head, right? I had one when I was a kid, but like, do people buy these anymore? Is that why they're doing this? Because no one's buying them anymore? Because like, it seems like a very analog toy for a very digital generation. And I'm not saying that kids shouldn't play with analog toys. I'm saying that there's a lot out there, and I don't know if that's always the first choice. It seems like a toy that parents would buy for their kids with zero input from the child whatsoever. But that's just my opinion. The Twitterverse has like blown up, and by Twitterverse I mean like more extremely online people. But also, it's kind of leaking out into the main conversation between everybody, and like, first off, if you're getting mad about this, just stop. Just stop, okay? All right. First off, we never asked for it. It's like the Oreo thing. Nobody in the community has asked for potato head products to be non-binary or whatever the heck people think is happening all of a sudden. That has not happened. That's not happening. Secondly, it's not going to destroy the fabric of society to ungender some stuff, okay? Like, I've worked in retail for many years, and including, a lot of merchandising, and I've had to merchandise my own toy department, um, based, and this was at the insistence of my corporate masters. I had to merchandise it based on gender. And I remember I said something about that. I argued the pointlessness of doing so, but it's really just pandering to people who have an outdated view of gender. There's nothing wrong with kids having, toys that aren't for their gender, okay? And people do it all the time. I myself had asked for a My Little Pony when I was like 6 or 7 or something, and I got it, by the way. Thank you, Grandma and Grandpa, for not judging me too harshly, even though some other people did. I did have one, and that was in the '80s, man, in the Midwest, and with a grandpa that was fairly socially conservative. I am saying that with as much kindness as I possibly can. It's been happening a long time, and a lot of people have said, nobody cares about that kind of thing. Why make a big deal about it? But if nobody cared about it, I wouldn't be making this video, would I? um, People care. I've witnessed it firsthand. Businesses care. A lot of them are still trapped in this whole binary toy thing. I have seen parents with their kids in the toy department, and the kids go grab a toy that is not meant for their gender, which is a load of nonsense, and they bring it to the parent, and the parent says, "No, you can't have that. that's for girls or that's for boys. You're not a boy, you're a girl or whatever. I remember one year around Halloween, I saw a young girl grab a Spider-Man costume, and she was very excited about it. And her mom was like, I believe she was shopping with her mother and grandmother, and they were like, "You can't have that. That's for boys. Go get a princess outfit or something like that." And she was dejected. She looked horribly dejected, and I felt so bad for her. And I've seen that more than once. That's just the most relevant, prevalent example in my brain. I've seen that happen a multitude of times, and it breaks my heart every time because it's awful. Don't do that to your kids. Come on. What's wrong with you? And so people clearly care, right? There wouldn't be a media and social media shitstorm about it if people didn't care, because clearly they do. Um, they care about us even being around people. They're most certainly going to care about, our meddling in their kids' toys or whatever the hell they think we're doing. Um, but it is, again, strictly a means to sell more toys to woke people. Okay? Um, am I okay with it? Yeah, kinda. I mean, I don't love that they're doing it for profit. Would rather they did it to actually, bring awareness or like even just, you know, normalize it for us. But that's not the case, right? We all know that it's not. They're doing it for profit. That's why they exist. That's literally why, CEOs are bound to the shareholders to make them profit. It's literally what they have to do. And if they don't, they can be fired. It's called fiduciary duties. They're bound to them. And I don't mean like it's a suggestion and most people, companies fire their CEOs for not doing it. No, 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 no. It is it is like the law. Okay? They have to do everything they need to do to bring in desired profits for their shareholders. Um, Full stop. So to think that they would do this just out of the goodness of their heart is just naive beyond belief, okay? However, again, I think it's a matter of the ends justifying the means, and if the means uh, are a little morally questionable, but we still, become more accepted in society, then again, I don't love it, but I'll take it, okay? And secondly, like, it's not some horrible, it's not gonna screw up everybody's lives to make a few changes like that, and nobody's even really doing it. I was always, during my transition in a couple of the companies I've worked for, I've had it mentioned to me that that uh, you know I filled a couple of checked off a couple of diversity boxes on the list, right? And I get that, and they have, they get tax breaks for that. So again, this goes into fiduciary duty kind of stuff. Um, and I've felt like majorly exploited by companies that I've worked for in that regard. A large retailer that I used to work for, I won't mention their name, but they are a large, very old department store that is well known for their parades. They used to do pictures in the store that I worked in. My boss would take pictures of people who did well or people who, of events or this or that. And man, I can't think of a one time that he did that I was not asked or told to be in the picture, right? And they do it because they can say, look at this, we have a trans woman, she's doing well, she's, part of our management team and blah, 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 blah. And has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with looking good to, other people. So they can stick it on a newsletter somewhere, so they can stick it in some advertising somewhere or something like that. Meanwhile, they, on the other hand, kept my dead name on their scheduling for over a year and a half, because they told me I could not change it without the legal name change. And I waited on my legal name change because I was going through a divorce at the time, and I didn't want to complicate matters for both of us too much. So I waited, and it wasn't a big deal. And then come to find out at the end of my tenure at this company that that was a lie. So they literally dead named me on paper every single day to the entire store for no reason, like literally no reason. So to say that these companies really care about trans people or LGBT people or any kind of marginalized community, I would say that the bigger they are, the less they care. Because I never felt really cared for as a trans person in that organization ever. They didn't actively, they hired me and they allowed me to work there, but I got misgendered all the time by coworkers at least once a week. Again, the thing with the scheduling and paperwork and everything, my dead name was all over it every day for no reason. So like to say that they care about marginalized people is a bit of a stretch. They care about us as much as we can get them money. I would say that's pretty much it. So, to hold this as some kind of, proof that the trans people are somehow infiltrating society and forcing companies to do these things is stupid and really doesn't line up with any evidence that I've seen so far. You know, we have a lot of us have a hard enough time making ends meet at this point. You know, if you look at what trans people, individual trans people are asking for, it's mostly like money for food, because a lot of them are begging in the streets at this point because they can't get it. They're unable to thrive in the society that wasn't made for them, and and has for the last for up until recently, they've refused to make any concessions for us or even make anything more accessible for us, and have actively demonized us in various forms that again I discussed in my other video, that have kept us out of society, and now we're only just now trying to get into it, and it's not easy. Okay, so most people who are trans are not asking for Oreo to acknowledge us, or for Hasbro to make gender neutral potatoes. It's that we want basic health care and the ability to provide for ourselves, and that's pretty much it. That's literally it, man. Like, no one is asking for any of this stuff. It's literally all done to make a buck. Okay. And again, I won't argue with some of the side effects of that, but the main result is profit for them. And they know that, or else they wouldn't do it. Because all of these things are very highly calculated. You have risk management as part of any business, or any, reasonably intelligent business owner has some kind of risk management, okay? And they don't make moves unless it's profitable for them, in any way, in every way that they can see. So, I wouldn't trust their morality on this, okay? I've been hearing a lot about it. Again, I didn't really want to talk about this because it's stupid. And you're forcing me to defend, certain people in for a system that I don't really believe in, but am forced to participate in. So this is not my favorite means of advocacy, but I will say that if you're getting upset about this kind of stuff, maybe take a look at your life and maybe examine, why you're getting mad about it, for one, and two, how it really affects, how is this truly going to affect you, and three, is it worth further demonization of the minority group in question to go off on a company for this kind of stuff? If if basic statements of reality and gender neutral plastic potatoes are setting you off, and you feel some kind of hardship about this whole thing, you should probably examine your life a little bit. That's what I'll say. Yeah, you should probably take a look in the mirror and think about, maybe using that energy towards something a bit more productive and less dumb. Also, can I just go off for a minute because like I've only been recording. This is not as long, and I'm gonna cut this further. But so I'm gonna go off for a minute. um, who's following these Twitters? Who follows Oreo? Like, like I like Oreos like a lot. Like I've been eating them since I was little. Like since I was old enough to eat solid food, probably. And like I've bought them regularly. I mean, not so much lately because I'm trying to like watch what I eat, and they're extremely not good for you. But like even in the last couple of years, I've bought many boxes of Oreos. So like I like them a lot, but I guess I don't like them as much as I thought I did because I don't follow them on Twitter. I don't follow them on any social media. So like who's doing this? You need some more important stuff to do with your life. Like you just do. You're following Hasbro. Why are you? I mean, if you're in the industry, sure, I get it. Maybe, I or if it's a hobby of yours, but I don't know anybody whose hobby is Oreos. Okay, I mean, I guess if you're a toy collector, you could probably, and maybe if you sell them or something, you would follow Hasbro. But like, who's honestly doing this? Like why has this become such a big deal? Who's following all these places? Who follows Goya even? Who cares? It's beans, man. Just eat them or don't. I don't care. Like they have bad stances. Yeah. Every company does. All of them do. They're terrible. All these big corporations, they're terrible, okay? None of them are good. None of them are looking out for you. Not a one. They don't care, okay? They do it for money. That's it. That's literally it. It's legally it. Okay? So like maybe let's stop getting wrapped up in what companies think and start, caring more about what individuals say. Maybe experts. Those would be good people to follow. Experts and the people who are living in the actual, people who are living in the actual circumstances that are being discussed. So like if you're on the fence about whether trans people exist, maybe talk to a doctor or maybe talk to a trans person. Maybe don't get your opinion from Oreo. Okay? Jeez, friggin' God. That's it. That's all I gotta say. Like I said, I wish I was talking about that the Equality Act is looking like it's gonna fail or something else, or you know all the ridiculous laws that are coming out that are trying to suppress our vote and you know take away our rights and prevent us from accessing medical care that is necessary for us. Um, I would love to be talking about that, but that's not what's going on in the national conversation now. Now I gotta talk about stupid cookies and stupid plastic freaking potatoes. It's ridiculous. Like, can we focus? Just let's focus, okay? Like, please, for the love of God. All right, that's it. That's all I gotta say. If you liked the video, actually, I've started. I have had a YouTube page for a long time. It has nothing in it. I do my streaming and gaming and stuff separate, so that has a different different YouTube thing. But I put the first video up on YouTube, just because a friend of mine wanted to look at it, and she couldn't. She doesn't have Facebook, so she didn't. She wasn't able to. So I put it on YouTube. And I'll probably put this one up there too. So we'll see. But if you want to go subscribe to that, I'll put the link in. All right, that's it. We're done. No more. I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I will never talk about it again, unless until, somebody else has something to say, I guess. But, yeah, that's it. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. And see you.